are the Foster Triplets, and we bring you a story of immense struggle, yet a story of victory in the midst of those struggles. And we have a very special guest with us today. She is Dr. Nathalee McKnight, or otherwise called Auntie Nathalee.
Yes.
She is our cousin, but we called her that since we were very young.
I mean, she has been around ever since birth, really.
Yes. I think it would only be appropriate for that to show. I think there was a small video that I really want that to put in right here, where Auntie Nathalee is trying to put us to sleep and patting our heads. We were babies at the time. So Dad, put that in right here. You know, when Dad is editing, Mahari loves to give certain cues. You know, Dad will insert a video here, a picture there. So she is giving a little message as we speak. So I hope you see the video.
Yes. You're not going. Come here. No. Or here. No. Back over the body. Don't come up before. Hear what I'm saying? No one should come before the barrier. You come over here, it's danger. Okay? Right. See there? She's lying down quite well. Marika, sit here. Sit. Come. Sit beside your sister. Come. 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 Sit here. Sit here. Sit. Sit. Good girl. Lie down here. Lie yourself down here, Marika. Marika, come. Lie yourself down right here. Good girl. Good girl. Bring your towel. You want it? Good. Three. Just lie down and have a good time right here. So just lie right here. All the good girls. You getting up again? Slide down. Remember what I said? Slide down right here.
Yes, and so now we move on to the lady of the hour, Dr. Nathalee McKnight, affectionately called Auntie Nathalee. Welcome.
Thank you, Mahari, Malika, and Mikeli.
See? She got the names right. She's been here for a while. So we have a few questions to ask you.
Sure, go ahead. I will try to read your lips.
Okay. So the first question is, how was life before the incident?
I would say that I was on top of my game. I think I had the closest walk with Jesus in my entire life at that time. I was doing several witnessing activities. I bathed people, I visited the homeless, I cooked for people. I was deep into the study of God's Word, praying a lot, all-night prayers. And I felt like I was in heaven many times. I felt very close to God.
At this time, you were pursuing a doctorate. What were you studying?
I was studying policy in education at Western University, and that's in Canada.
Wow,
Okay.
so you were at the top of your spiritual game and educational game.
That is true.
Yes, so everything was going well, and as they say, everything that could go wrong went wrong. What happened?
Like everything, my entire life changed. Initially, my eyes, my vision became very dim, and we're talking about 5 years ago. 5 years ago. So that was in March of 2017. I suddenly could not see details. I noticed I was just seeing a blob. So I would look outdoor and I would just see the outline of trees.
What was your first reaction when that happened?
I would say that I accommodated it well, but it didn't stop there. In June of the same year, early June, I realized that my left ear just suddenly went. I was crossing the street and a vehicle drove up and touched my leg, and I did not hear a sound. I heard nothing. I had no warning. And 3 weeks after that, later June, my right ear went. So in the space of 3 months, my eyes and my ears were deeply affected. And as soon as I lost my hearing, my vision went even worse. So I got to the point actually where I had no fluids in my eyes, so I could not blink. And if I tried to, I got lacerations on my eyeballs. So at one point for 2 weeks, I kept my eyes closed. I just could not bear to blink, and it also meant I lacked sleep because my eyes were in agony, itching, burning. I was having a very hard time.
And at this time, your vision had worsened?
It had.
So apart from the blobs that you would see, what could you see at that time? Was it the same?
What I was able to see was just blurry outlines. So what I realized was if things were close up to me, I had to hold them close to my eyes. If they are far away, I would not be able to see them at all. So it meant I couldn't move about as I want to. I had to have company. I totally lost my independence.
And this was still during the time that you were studying?
Please repeat. I didn't get that.
You were still studying?
Oh, yes.
How did that affect your study?
Well, if I could mention my supervisor at that time, who was most supportive, her name is Dr. Marianne Larson. She was really shaken by what was happening, and she told me the best thing to do is just pause, just stop until I get better. She was thinking of my health and well-being. But something in me said, go on, complete what you started. And I had the idea that if I could just finish this one thing, if perhaps I could complete it, because perhaps I will lose my vision altogether and my hearing altogether. So let me just brace myself. Let me push myself and get it done. So between June and August 31, I defended my PhD, and to September 1, I returned home to Jamaica.
So how did you do this?
I would have to say that my husband, I had a very supportive husband. He was with me at the time. God is very wise. Had he not been there with me to help me to read for me, correct, do all the editing, I'm not sure if I would be able to be successful. And so I am very grateful to him and others who have helped me. I could not do it alone.
How many years did it take you to finish a 4-year doctorate program?
Well, I completed it just in time, and I keep saying to others who are struggling, persons who I went to the university, I saw them there, and I left them there. They started the program, and some just dropped out along the way. They just couldn't manage. But I want to say on this point that sometimes in the deepest struggles, in the very hardest of setbacks, that's when you get the greatest successes. So many times we ought not to look on our present situation, as difficult as it is. When you look back, you want to be able to say, I accomplished something, I did something, at least I have something to show. And so I completed it just in time.
You said that you lost most of your hearing.
Yes.
What was that like? What does it sound like?
Well, my three darlings, it has been a non-stop, excruciating, disturbing time for me. I have what has been called or labeled as sensory neural hearing loss, and that means sudden deafness. And I have what the doctors have described as dry eye disease. So I don't know what led to those two conditions. No one to this date has been able to tell me, and I have done several tests. I have taken a plethora of medication.
Just to interject, that is just a little bit
Yes.
of the vast amount that you have taken. Plus
Yes.
you have spent millions
of dollars. And I realize how persons who have long-term illnesses, how it has affected them. So financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, it really has taken a toll on me.
I'm Gayanchan. I'm an ENT otolaryngologist, and I have a particular interest in patients with hearing and dizzy disorders. I'm a neurologist as well. Nathalie has been a friend of mine for a great part of 20 years, and I recall when she left for Canada, and then when she returned in 2017, shortly after having sudden hearing loss and sudden dizzy onset. She actually had a battery of tests done in Canada, and most of those tests were relatively inconclusive as to the cause, but they all demonstrated that she indeed had difficulty hearing bilaterally, which was profound at that time, and what we would consider in the medical field as unserviceable. There were some initial attempts at restoring her hearing, and they were unsuccessful. And when she returned to Jamaica, there were additional attempts to identify the cause of her hearing, but in the end, the actual cause was pretty elusive. That was catastrophic in several areas. I recall seeing my friend, confident young woman, and the effects of hearing loss on her. Generally, hearing loss can be something that significantly causes one to, do a lot of introspection and interaction with family and friends, and maybe left out of conversations, maybe left out of a lot of things. And the confidence of the individual, the confidence of Nathalie also was affected. And throughout the years, since I've continued to be her doctor and her friend, I have, we both worked together to try to identify what can be adjusted, what can be helped in terms of her hearing, in terms of her response to sound, in terms of the tinnitus that she has, in terms of what we call in medical field hyper-recruitment, which means sounds are extremely sensitive to her in terms of her dizziness, and the mental toll, not just from an anxiety standpoint, but the mental toll from the brain overload, because the brain has to be the one that's adjusting to all of these things. And over the years, she has blossomed remarkably. I must say that as far as an individual goes with hearing loss, she has adjusted her, she has maintained her work ethic, she has maintained her discipline, she has perfected her craft as an educator at the Ministry of Education. And even though the hearing loss is something that was catastrophic, it goes to show that despite all odds, one can overcome. Despite all odds, Nathalie has demonstrated that one can still overcome all the obstacles and still maintain a very productive life. And for individuals who also have undergone some amount of sudden hearing loss, it's always good to try to identify the cause, get those causes addressed, treatment options from early as she had attempted. And at the end of the day, whatever the outcome, know that despite the odds, you can still maintain a very productive life. You can still have a very fulfilling life, as she has demonstrated in hers. And I know that she'll continue to grow from strength to strength. I've known her for 20 years, and there's no doubt in my mind that she'll continue to do that.
You had asked before how this has affected me. So I find myself in a position where I'm very codependent. Initially, I couldn't cross the street by myself. It means that my love of music, I love hearing songs. I used to sing myself.
Yes, beautifully.
I cannot anymore. I do not hear myself. I cannot hear the tones. So I don't trust myself to sing because I might sing a wrong note and you will laugh at me.
No worry.
So no more sermons, no more studying in depthly because that will hurt my eyes. I cannot look at things too intently. And as for the sounds, I do pick up sounds. It's not that I do not hear at all. I pick up sounds. But what I capture are reverberating sounds. They replay and they are very warped. So I do not hear as I did before. So birds are annoying, dogs, crickets, frogs,
Rakes.
Oh, that one is terrible. And it just disturbs me and sets me off. So, not to mention the winds, the fans, everything is disturbing. Helicopters, bikes, and car engines. So what I get is an overload of noises and they're all playing at once.
So do you hear voices?
I know that someone is speaking. I know that you are talking to me. I can pick up vibrations very well. And I think better than before. I do pick up sounds, especially deep male voices. But I'm not able to decipher the words. So that has been a great challenge for me. It means I cannot function as I once did.
So you have the sounds that you hear in the day, it plays in your head
In the night.
They play over and over. So what that does is I collect the sounds during the day and at nights they replay. So at once I'm hearing the bikes, your voices, the rake this morning, the winds, everything is playing together as one. So my brain is overstimulated and I get very tired and very weary.
You also mentioned earlier that you have the sound of a heartbeat in your
Yes.
head and music.
That's described as tinnitus and it manifests itself different ways with persons who have hearing loss or hearing challenges. So what I get is a continuous throbbing heartbeat sound. It never goes away. So with that, I will get other sounds such as a door squeaking, things, a brake screeching, and the volume is high. So it's louder than I would hear it prior to this condition. So it's too much. It's too much for my ear. So I will get anxious and agitated easily. I've had to retrain myself and talk to myself a lot. Okay, calm down. It's okay. It's just a bike. It's just a baby crying. It's fine. You can do this. So it's a continuous. I keep talking to myself just to adjust and to reacclimatize.
I noticed that you had some earplugs
Yes.
earlier. Can you explain to us what that does for you?
Well, my girlies, I have one here to show you, and I have various ones. They're at different decibels, so some block out the noises altogether, and that's just the external noises. I still have to contend with the internal sounds that keep me they just continue on and on. So these lovely ear blockers, I stuck them in, and when I do this, there is a measure of peace. The pressure in my forehead and in my shoulders just releases, and this helps.
But it's hard to read lips after that.
Who told you this?
You did.
That's a challenge. So while this helps for a while, so if I'm going in a noisy place or there's music playing, or if I go to church and there are microphones, or there's a radio or CD playing, I have to stuck these in. And when I do this, I get a measure of peace. But afterwards, if I take them out, the flood of noises come back, and I am just frightened and shaken, and I have to begin again. So in response to what you asked me, without the ear blockers, I pick up more sounds, and I use the sounds that you make along with my eyes to read your lips, and sometimes vibration. So if I'm holding on to you, or my ear is next to your chest, I will pick up the vibration, and I use all the sounds and my vision, everything, to capture the words and to get the accuracy of what you're saying.
Okay.
And it does help when persons enunciate and form their words properly, so I can pick up. If you speak without moving your lips,
That's bad.
I won't get a word you're saying.
Do these agitate your ears?
Yes, I get a physical pain, a tenderness in my ear if I wear them for too long. So I have to take breaks. So whatever I try, there is always some kind of disturbance, but I try really hard to accommodate and try to adjust.
Have your eyes improved?
That's a hard one to answer, because for the past few weeks I've noticed that they've been growing dimmer, and so I find that and maybe it has to do with the weather, because when it's bleak or there is rain or if it's overcast, my eyes do very poorly. So I find in the sunlight, or when the place is beautifully lit, bright, then I see better. Not perfect, but better.
I see. How has this affected your spiritual life? You mentioned earlier that you were on a mountaintop of sorts in your spiritual life. How has this affected you?
This is the hard part. I think my spiritual life has been affected more than every other era of my life. I find that my constitution and my resolve has broken down. Like, I cannot find a place of rest in my spirit. I don't understand how this has happened. I don't know what I have done for this to happen, so I still have questions. And what that has done, it has affected my relationship with God. He has chosen not to show me why this has happened, but I have had bouts of ups and very, 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 very low lows. And I was sharing with your dad earlier that at one point I got so sad, so depressed, so very low in spirit. I lay down on the carport right there one night and I lost it. In Jamaica we use this word bawl. I bawled. I cried so much. I had this vision that I had lost my first love. I lost my way to Jesus. I lost my soul and my eternal salvation. And my name was wiped out of the book of life. And I said, okay, I'm struggling with my eyes and my ears. I could cope with that. But if I lose my soul, what is life? Why am I here? I didn't want to live. I didn't want to be in this world because it would not make sense.
I know this is a touchy subject, but for those who struggle with continuous health conditions, they might consider suicide.
Yes.
And for you, there's this constant ringing, constant sounds. There's no relief.
It's really hard because one of the things I find subsequent to experiencing vision and hearing loss, what I find is that the troubles that I've had, the crucibles I've had, are way worse than these. Like I'm saying, God, can I bear more? Do you mean this is not the hardest thing? I think this is so hard, but there is more. There is always a great pressure. There is just always something. So I find like Satan, the arch enemy, is like, okay, I've got her now. She is down. I'm not going to ease up. I'm going to keep battering her on the threshing floor. I'm going to beat her down. So my being conscious of the great controversy itself has really helped me, because I know this is a spiritual warfare. Will you allow me to share something?
Go ahead.
At first, when I got this hearing loss, 2 incidents happened that showed me that this was not just a physical health condition. It had to do with something spiritual, something higher. The first instance was as soon as I discovered I could not hear. I remember I told you about a vehicle driving up to my leg and I didn't hear. A man out of nowhere appeared on his bicycle. And I'm talking, it's still chilly, cool weather. And he's in little shorts and sleeveless. And I'm cold. I have on all my sweaters and my gears. And he rides up on his bicycle and he says, "You're having trouble with your ear, aren't you?" So I looked at him in amazement and asked, "How do you know?" And he says, "Me too. I have had trouble with my ear for 20 years. I cannot hear." So I said, 20 years? So it dawned on me that I have a long haul. I will be contending with this condition for an extended period of time. That really hit me. And some weeks after that, I was standing in front of the mirror just talking with God and saying, "God, what did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this? I wasn't eating poorly. I can't find anything sinful I was doing at the time. Mark you, we all do wrong things. And we need to come up higher. And some of our characters, we don't want anybody to know how terrible we are." But I said, what could I do to such a great degree that would cause me to be repaid in this way? And immediately I heard distinctly a voice repeating the scripture, Daniel 7:25. Maybe you are familiar with it, and it says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints." So I turned my head in the direction of the voice, and I said, "Oh, you're trying to wear me out." So that was the second thing that happened to me that showed that something greater was at stake. It was not just about me.
You mentioned to me on my last visit here that the word Jesus, you've heard it before, although
Yes.
you're not able to distinctly pick out sounds.
Your memory is much better than mine. That's a good one. So that's another thing I noticed. Whenever someone prayed, I would not be able to follow. Our eyes are closed when we're praying, or they're not really speaking and engaging me. They're talking to God, so they're not looking at me, so I'm not getting anything.
The words.
But be sure when the prayer ends and the use of "in the name of Jesus" or "in Jesus' name," I hear that.
So
To
you
this
hear
day,
it.
I hear "in Jesus' name."
Now comes the very interesting question. How do people react to this?
That's a good question. Sometimes I think they have taken it harder than I have. I've had persons crying. Persons have not spoken to me since it has happened. They don't know what to say. Persons have really taken it hard. My mother, for example, she just could not face it. But after a while, after she saw that I was not dead, I was still able to function in some respect, she came around. Other persons are angry with God. Persons are disturbed. They can't understand the acts of God, how God could allow such a thing. Other persons have become more prayerful. When I cannot pray, when I cannot, there are no words I have to say to God. The words don't come. I know persons are out there praying for me. Other persons have been very proactive and have provided me with different remedies. Persons have visited me.
It's a bike.
It's a bag.
Yes.
Okay. It's a bag. Alright, so this is what happens.
It frightens you.
And I never get accustomed to it. I am never prepared. I always get a shock. No matter how many times I hear the sounds. Whereas if Uncle Mark tries to approach me, we live in the same home. And as often as he approaches me, if I'm not aware he's coming towards me, I'm jumping. I lost it.
So I have a question. Would it make you feel better if you use like a flashlight and turn it on or off?
Flashing lights, my eyes don't like flashing lights.
Oh.
I find I just have to contend with it. Rapping, knocking sounds affect me just the same. So maybe girls, I have to live isolated all by myself. What do you think?
I don't think so.
No?
I noticed that many people have reacted differently. Some have given you medicine, remedies. Have other people blamed you for what has happened to you?
I would say one person in particular I don't know, was brave enough to approach me and ask me, what were you doing? What sinful thing were you? You must have been doing something. Why God has allowed this to happen to you. And I did not disrespect the person. I did look in my life to see whether something I was doing, would have led to my being rewarded in this fashion. Other persons have told me that I lack faith.
Wow.
If I have such a condition, I should pray and believe God and He will heal me. I remember one Sabbath in church, I had my earplugs in. I was having a really hard time with the music and the sounds. So I stuck my earplugs in, and a lady comes and she grabs them out of my ear suddenly. And she said, Sister McKnight, you should have faith. And I'm in church, so I can't react in an angry way. So I just shook my head and I said, I think persons don't understand what I am contending with. And I think that is something, when somebody is ill, we might think they're complaining too much. Or they keep saying, I don't feel well. But it's true. They don't feel well. I'm not hearing well, and it's affected me. So I think just in the same way we say, I'm happy, I'm on top of the world, I like today, it's okay to say I'm sad today, I'm hurting, So I find even in saying or acknowledging how you feel, it doesn't mean that you have disavowed knowledge of God, that you still cannot relate to God, that you have lost your faith. It means something is happening to you and you need to acknowledge it and work through it and pray about it, because I do not feel that God is unloving. I think that God is love. And even with all I am experiencing, not once can I say that God has been unkind to me. Not once. I have to say that God has really proven Himself to me. You know what happened? One other night, I shared one experience before. One night I was having severe challenges to breathe. Behind my ear was congested, my throat was congested, my nostrils were congested. I am having great struggle to breathe, and I feel like if something doesn't happen, I'm going to stop breathing now. So my ears are blocked off and I'm not breathing properly. So I sat and I said, oh God, are you not hearing me? I need a relief. And I remembered that my husband Mark bought a little bottle of CashApp oil. And just out of sheer desperation, I ran and got it. And I overdosed my ear.
Oh no.
My whole throat, my chest all over with CashApp. And after a while, I just felt this peace and this release. And just for that inkling of a second, I said, thank you, Jesus. I was happy and bright because it was like for weeks I was under this continuous strain and pressure to breathe, and what it does, it takes away your energy.
Right.
You cannot move about, you have no life, you're not moving, you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're not resting. So that 1 second I said, oh wow, I said, God is alive, God is good. So I think I live for those little moments. I treasure the little moments of peace and a break.
How long do you sleep at night?
Not very well. I shared with you that I have what you call a musical hallucination. So every single night I get a song. It's mostly a song from the Seventh-day Adventist Church hymnal. Every night, like clockwork, there's a song playing over and over in my head. I like singing,
Yes.
but man, I need to sleep.
Which song was it last night?
Well, last night I got the song Revive Us, oh Lord, and I sang with it. So what I realized is if God has his way to reach people, God has allowed certain things to happen to us. He's not leaving us alone, because all these songs are a source of encouragement to me. So while I'm having a disturbance and an influx of noises, a song could serve to just calm me down. And I will sing that song or hum it right throughout the day just to get a little solace.
Sometimes until your throat hurts.
But sometimes I overdo it. So I keep humming and humming until my throat hurts. And I have to, okay, just stop humming for a while, take a break. Yeah.
So you mentioned that it was hard to breathe. Is that a part of the condition that you face?
Yeah, I've found that over time that I am increasingly having breathing challenges. And I think maybe because all the organs are connected. And so I find I'm not breathing as I was before. And I don't taste like I used to either. So I find shortly after I lost my hearing that I was unable to taste the food. So I found I was overdosing with salts or spices to help me to taste the meal.
So I'm sure you can't wear a mask like
No.
many other people.
No, and many persons don't understand that. I have tried to explain to persons that I am having a problem with my hearing, and it affects my breathing passage, because often behind my ear, especially this ear, it's congested and it just clogs up my whole system. Best way is for me to get fresh air, just breathe naturally. But persons will tell me you need to wear your mask. You have to have your mask on. I explain to persons sometimes and they say, no, I don't believe that. You need to wear your mask.
Wow.
I've been to church and they send me to sit outside because everyone else has on their mask and I can't wear mine, so I'm exempted. I don't feel bad because I know that it will take time for persons to understand or empathize with others who can't follow the rules. It's a legitimate thing that's happening to me, so I understand. And I understand that persons are trying to protect themselves and they've had loved ones who have died, and that's really hard. They're grieving. So the first thing that may come to persons' mind is that I've had 4 or 5 deaths in my family, so let's just cover and protect ourselves. So I empathize with persons, and I hope that even in hearing this story, that persons will empathize with me.
You mentioned countless times that a support system for you has been Uncle Mark, so I thought it would be fitting to invite Uncle Mark to come
Really?
in.
He's here?
And share some more. And now we have Uncle Mark McKnight. Auntie Nathalie's wonderful husband, who has supported her through thick and thin. I'd like to introduce this wonderful gentleman to you, who we affectionately call Uncle Mark, or Uncle Mac when we were much younger, when we couldn't pronounce the R. He has been here for a long time. I mean, since birth. I mean, changing nappies, everything. So here is Uncle Mark, another support system in our life, and the support system to Auntie Nathalie too. What was your first reaction when all of this happened?
Well, when all of this happened, we didn't know what was happening. So it was just to get checks and learn more. But in truth, I expected that there would be a speedy resolution, a visit to the doctor, a conversation here, some input, and then things would be back to normal. I didn't envision that after how many 5 years, the condition would remain. I even thought that after we came back to Jamaica and we eat some good Jamaican food,
It would go away.
that things would just resolve. But we're here and we just adapt from day to day. We just adapt.
So, how hard is it on you, not only to explain to others how to take care of Auntie Nathalie in terms of don't do this, don't do that? Is it difficult for you?
I don't need to do that because she can explain for herself. And what I do is I try to let persons know that they don't have to crowd her too much or restrict her, because she's still very sensitive. Her hearing is sensitive, but she still has the potential to do everything that others do just the same. So I alert persons of the sensitivity to noise, but in terms of her potential, then all of that is still very much there.
How have you helped her to accommodate to going back to work, living life, acclimatizing herself to going back to work, driving, all of those stuff?
When it just started, she was very uncertain, very shy, very unsure. And I would take her to work all the time at that time. As time went on, she started to talk about, driving on her own again. And she started to do her research. Research is everything.
Yes.
Research is everything. So she started to do her research, what would be best, what vehicle would be best. And then steps were taken to equip her in that regard. So I just supported her in all of these steps. And then when she got the vehicle, she was a bit timid. And so I think the first time I drove with her, I drove behind her, and then she went out on the road.
How have social interactions been for you?
I find that some persons are overprotective. They want to feed me.
Feed?
Some persons, I should not go outside at all. I should stay indoor. A lady a few weeks ago came to visit me, and she said, no, Auntie Nathalie, I will come in. You cannot come outside. I appreciate persons being kind and caring, but I also want some measure of independence.
Autonomous.
Yes. On the other hand, my interaction with persons have decreased a lot. I prefer and find more peace when I'm isolated, because I am contending with all these noises. I find I do best when I'm alone and out of the noises. So I try to minimize interaction a lot. So I don't go many places anymore.
Wow.
I mostly work from home. I rarely go to church. I go to church and it's a shock to my system. So to a great degree, I haven't been interacting. As for telephone calls, I haven't received a telephone call for 5 years.
Wow.
I don't know what it is to rap with people, sit and have a general discussion. So I find that even though I love to interact and I had a great skill of leadership, one of my job function was to teach. I taught adults and I really love that. But I can't do that anymore. I can't take the feedback, the answering. I get very confused. So I have spoken to myself and say, okay, some things you can't do anymore and it's fine. It's a new place you are in your life, so you just have to relearn and unlearn some things.
I know that you have tried to learn some things. You have tried to learn sign language.
I have 3 times I started, but I find I'm getting confused. I am not retaining the signs. It's not sticking. I don't know, maybe something is wrong. But I also have met persons with hearing challenges who have confirmed that they too were not able to learn sign language. So I felt a little better that it's not me alone.
What is the percentage of people that struggle with your condition with losing both sight and hearing?
That's a good question, very thought-provoking. I would say based on my interaction with persons, based on my research, my own little research, and based on testimonies from others, that it's a very rare occurrence. I initially heard of a group or a tribe of people who develop hearing and vision loss. But I am not from that tribe, so that wasn't it. But coming home to Jamaica, my doctor had said never before. In the US, I sent my results, Canada, Cuba, never before had they heard of someone losing the hearing and vision suddenly. So it seemed to be a very rare occurrence and no one really knows how this condition came about. But in Jamaica, I later met in 2018 to my doctor, a lady, a lovely lady, Dr. Nadine Williams. Hi, Dr. Williams. I discovered that she too developed hearing and vision loss. Not to the extreme that I have, but she still has to contend with it, and she has improved quite a lot.
Wow.
And actually we just met 2 weeks ago and we were able to share our story, and that's a beautiful side to what's happening to me. I'm able to hear the broken parts of people and I share my broken parts too, and in some way it brings us together and helps us to comfort each other. So it also teaches me to empathize with people more and listen more. I realize that prior to this condition, I never really heard the depth of feeling what persons were experiencing, but now I can relate better. I can say, even if someone is not experiencing what I have, I've been down there. I know what depression is. I know what hurt is. I know what it is to be out of control. Like, I cannot tell myself, get up. I cannot tell myself see and hear. It just doesn't happen that way. I have to work through it. I have to talk to myself. I have to find a place of solace. I have to ask God for help. I have to ask other persons for help. And that's a challenge for me because I did prefer to do things on my own. So not many persons I have met or heard of was ever developed this condition, an unnamed condition.
Uncle Mark, how has Auntie Nathalee's condition affected your relationship? Has it changed the dynamic in any way?
It hasn't. She's still my wife.
Of course.
She's still beautiful. She's still smart. She's still, all of the things that she was before.
Right.
It would affect how we interact in that we can't talk in the dark. We can only talk with the light on. When I get home, I have to enter the house softly and quietly, like I'm a thief, and I have to see where she is, and then I have to knock on something and try to make a sound so that she can look around and see me. Because if I just approach, she's going to be frightened.
Right.
So I have to make a strong effort not to frighten her all the time. But we adapt, and she's still the same person. I still love and support her.
How has that affected your relationship with God? We asked her this question, but specifically you. How has this affected your relationship with God?
Well, I've accepted before that God is in charge of everything, and if God has done something, then it is for our good, and He'll equip us. So I look for the positives. I look for His hand working in our lives, and I see every day His hand working, how He has blessed, how He has healed and restored, how He has taken her and me from one place to the other. So there is a lot that He has done for us through and in this situation.
May I ask you girls a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry, you young ladies.
No problem.
That's
No
okay.
problem.
How, on receipt of this news that I had lost my vision and hearing, how did you fare?
When I heard that you had lost your hearing and your sight, it was difficult. So what I did was I tried to forget it, but I tried to still see you as the normal functioning person, like this is not happening to you. So I was in denial for a bit. I tried to figure out how I could still relate to you how I still did in the past. Not that the method would be the same, but I wanted our relationship to be the same. I was very, very sad. I had to keep from crying for a very long time. I tried to come up with find different remedies online, and I just couldn't find anything pertaining to your case. So it was frustrating because so many times we think we can fix it, but I couldn't fix it. So I really came to the understanding that just as you had learned to cope and accept it, I had to do the same thing, because not accepting it would hurt you as well. So your example, your witness of still pushing through and being joyful has helped me a whole lot. So now I can relate to you the same way I did back then, because you're still the same Auntie Nathalee to me. I struggled with a mixture of Mahari and Malaika's approaches. I was in denial at first. I was worried, I was sad. I tried to Google everything, trying to find a cure, and I could not. And then I reached the last phase, which was acceptance. And I finally recognized that you are still Auntie Nathalee and that God is in control.
So
So thank you for that question. It was good of you to throw it back on us. Thank you for that. Auntie Nathalie, I know that different persons, in order to help you, they have given you different medications and different things, but at some point I'm sure it gets tiring.
I would say persons have genuinely want to help me, and persons have spent monies. Some have made all kinds of different mixtures. Some have sent me items. Some have visited me with coconut water and fruits to nourish my system. On all fronts, persons have really genuinely sought to help me. I think at times it can be overwhelming, because after you have tried something and you don't see an improvement or any change, you can get despondent. And persons who are not experiencing what I'm experiencing can be very forceful. I told you to try that. Why haven't you tried that? That's why you're not getting better. You know, so I have to deal with persons and comfort them and say, you know, I really appreciate what you are trying to do, and I thank you for what you are doing for me. And I really appreciate that you have tangibly shown that you care. But sometimes I have to say, it's okay. I can't manage anymore. I'm tired. I did try what you said, and I took what you brought me, but I can't take so many things at once. It's too much, and my system gets very overwhelmed, and sometimes I just have to take a break.
What would you like to say, both of you, to the audience in how they could accommodate you better?
You want to go first?
I could go first. So I can cite one thing that happens pretty much consistently, where we're approached by persons, it could be friends or family members, and we're having a conversation and they say something, and Nathalie gets that, they say to me, just translate, but we're speaking English.
Yes.
So I would say that persons should just take the time to relate, to treat. It's the same person, so just take the time to relate to her and to know that she's still very capable and she's very much there and very much able to carry what she was able to carry out before.
Thank you for that.
I would add, I am able to communicate with people. They just have to go slower and enunciate and look at me. I find, especially when persons are hurting or they are relating a sad experience, they don't meet you eye and eye. They look away, and I don't get what they are saying. And it's really difficult and sometimes very heartbreaking for me when somebody is sharing a story how they are sad and down, and I have to ask, pardon me, or please repeat.
Right.
It just doesn't seem appropriate. So I be honest, sometimes I pretend to understand, and I just nod my head and say, I'm so sorry, I understand. But I feel with them, but I didn't hear everything. Sometimes I get the essence and the gist of what persons are saying, and I think that's enough. Persons are appreciating. As a matter of fact, I want to add that since I've developed this condition, I found myself in a situation where persons want to talk. But I'm saying, don't they realize I cannot hear? Persons are either grieving or hurting, so your case is secondary to them. They are blinded by what they are experiencing. And sometimes we are like that. The situation we are in is so consuming that you don't see that other persons are hurting too. You know, all of us will face crucibles at some point. It may not be hearing and vision loss, or a disturbance of sounds and noises, or painful eyes. It may not be those, but each person will get their own crucible. I really believe that. As to whether we are able to function and receive the crucibles well, it really means we have to develop a relationship with God. There is no human element in me that could help me to cope. I cannot control what is happening to me. So I am having a rough time now, right? So I am going to wear one ear. This ear is more sensitive. I'm going to wear one earplug and try to work with this ear only. So this ear is able to hear sounds at about 70%, and this ear, my right ear, at 30%. So it's just picking up sounds I'm not able to decipher. So I was saying before, we have to get to a place in our crucibles where we reach out to God. Even if we don't understand what's happening to us, we have a God, and He's alive, and He's powerful, and He's able, and He's willing, and He's a God of love. And you have to keep repeating that. It may not feel like it. It may not feel like God is hearing. It may not feel as if He's hearing you, because that's important. Not that He's hearing the whole world, or a sea of people, or a group of prayerful person, but He's hearing each individual, and He cares about each individual, even me. So that makes me feel special, and not to the point of feeling like I'm better than others, but it tells me that there is a God who is concerned just about my case. And these thoughts are what I use to get me over and get me to continue to live moment by moment. An hour is too long for me. A day is too much for me to fathom, or to think, or project, or plan. I just have to go snail pace moment. I can never predict what will happen, what sounds I'm going to drop. I can't. So I just have to just keep talking to myself, keep humming, I don't pray well anymore. I get disturbed in my prayer. My mind goes off in the prayer. But I remain in a prayerful mood. I still wake. If I awake early, I still sit in an attitude, or kneel in an attitude of prayer, and I wait. So I'm listening. If God has something to say to me today, I am available to hear. So while I recognize I'm not able to study my Bible as long, because I cannot read so much, I cannot watch sermons or hear sermons anymore, I just work with what I have, and that's enough. We ought not to try to compete against ourselves. I often do that. I used to be able to do that, and I could do this. If I keep doing that, I will just live in regret, and I won't be able to accomplish anything.
What would you say to a young man, a young woman, an elderly person, a child, anyone who thinks that when they get sick or when they are faced with a dangerous situation, they can decide to turn their lives around and to worship and to pray. What do you say to them?
Michaeli, that's very dangerous, because you never know in what way your crucible will come. You never know the degree to which you will be affected. And so I would say the time is now. The time to prepare is now, because if I use my case, had I not been worshiping, serving the Lord, witnessing, reading His words, I would be dead. I would succumb to my condition. I would go to bed, I would lose hope and not wake up. So I found, particularly in the early stages of my hearing loss, I found that I had a bank of scriptures that reassured me. I had watched enough sermons. I had read enough Spirit of Prophecy books that served to build me up and kept me grounded. Had I not been doing that, I can say without a doubt, I would have succumbed, I would have failed. So I would reinforce the persons, prepare. And the best way to prepare, read the Word of God. Don't wait until you are unable to. If I lost my vision, had I not been reading before, I was not physically able to do so. I went like for a whole year without really reading my Bible. And I could not hear. I used to listen to books I could not hear. I used to listen to songs that would encourage me. So the time to prepare and act is now. And so for me, personally, my previous life helped me to live my present life. Or to put another way, what I was doing before helped me in the now.
What are some coping mechanisms you utilize to help you through this situation?
I take breaks. Sometimes I just sit and do nothing. And that's hard for me because I was always wanting to occupy, to do something. I sit.
Very hard for her.
I sit and do nothing. I can't go anymore. Just break. I do gardening. I love to watch the plants unfolding, the flowers blooming, another petal coming out. I watch the handiworks of God, and nature speaks to me and calms me. So when I am having a disturbance, a lot of noises, I can run outside and look in the garden, and it presents a certain calm and peace to my mind. And I know that's God. I was sharing with your dad earlier, I would go to bed some nights and there's a green plant and I awake in the morning and it blooms purple all over and I say, whoa, who did that? It wasn't me. I just see a plant, the Ixoria reds, the yellows, the pinks, the whites, the colors, and it just breathes life into me. So it pumps me up and helps me to go on. So I don't look for big things. I don't need to be associated with high-flown persons or distinguished or royal persons, Just little things, a little come visit the little old lady who says, Sister McKnight, I don't stop praying for you, you know. Every day. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm praying for you. So I say, wow, God rest little old me on somebody's heart. So that helps me to cope and go on. And I find sometimes just relating how you feel to someone. I'm not feeling well right now. I'm not doing well. Today is a bad day. I acknowledge how I feel, and that helps. That helps me to cope, you know. And maybe one other thing I should mention, if I'm feeling really low and downcasted, if I go to help someone else,
You feel better.
ooh, wee, that just buoys me up. Like I say, oh my, imagine me, I am able to help someone else. So these are some of the things. I may not remember all, but those things are things I consistently do to help me to cope. Persons will use different things to cope. Find your way. Find your way. Maybe for some persons it's interacting with others, going in a noisy setting. Find what works for you, and don't compare yourself with someone else. Once that works for you, work along with it.
There have been many people who have supported you on this journey. What would you like to say to them?
I would say it's wonderful to have help, and we cannot journey in this life alone. Whereas before I thought I functioned best on my own, I have come to recognize and confess that I am at a place where I need help. I mentioned to you before Dr. Marian Larson. She helped me throughout my study life. She supported me, and so I'm really grateful to her. There is a Brother Clark. I know maybe he doesn't want me to mention his name because some persons just want to help behind the scenes. But how could I fail to mention his name? That brother has helped me way beyond my capacity to thank him. Medication, with encouragement, with sermons. He has been so selfless in trying to help me. Brother Clark, thank you so much. I also want to mention doctors who have helped me. I've met several, but most outstanding, Dr. Madan has helped me with my eyes, and Dr. Chana with my ears. They've really helped me and been with me throughout the journey, and I'm really very appreciative. I know I would not be here now sharing my story with you. And lastly, I want to talk about family. Family are not only those who are blood related to you, but they are persons of your church family, individuals who are just always there. I have to mention Sister Hyacinth James, always mixing some juice for me. I have to mention persons at my church, New Haven Seventh-day Adventists. They're always praying, visiting me, bringing me fruits, sending hello for me, sending me text messages to boost me up. At my very lowest times when I cannot go on, there is someone to buoy me up. And my colleagues, main person, when I just got this condition, Dr. Grace McLean, supportive. No week passed in which that woman hasn't related to me, checked up on me. I'm so very appreciative. She was the one who insisted that I remain dutiful. I continue to work. And that was, she's a visionary. That was important because it gave me a measure of independence and helped me to feel that I still had something to contribute to society. So I thank Dr. Grace McLean. And is there anybody else you would like? I mentioned you before, so don't think I forgot you.
I would not think that. There are so many names, it's hard to mention everyone.
It's hard. Just generally, persons have been extremely supportive of me, checked up on me, contributed what they can, and I am indebted to these persons. I know I would not be able to go on if persons weren't supportive. Then there is just the man on the street, the taxi driver, the person in the supermarket who shows such empathy, who just care for no reason. Say, oh my, how you managing, how you deal with this? What happened? How did this happen to you? Can you share this story with someone else to encourage them? You know, so I find myself a recipient of great love and care, and it shows me that the presence of God is near. He's still alive and he's very operable. He's operating through persons.
We are coming down to the end, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to ask you what word of encouragement you could give to persons that are going through crucibles at this moment.
My best word of comfort and encouragement is to keep fighting. Every single day I fight. Every day I fight. I said, God, the sun is out. That means I have to get up. That means you sent the sun as a reminder to me that life goes on. It's hard. Especially if I just started to sleep in the wee hours of the morning. But I still have to get up. It's difficult sometimes to just brush my teeth. And I don't have the energy. I don't want to get up. I don't feel like. But I've learned it's not about how you feel. Keep fighting. Even when things look bleak and dim and you're not hearing the voice of God, stick to His promise. Find a promise that fits your situation, that fits your condition, and hold on to it for dear life. Don't let it go. Fight.
And that's what Auntie Nathalie said, ladies and gentlemen, fight. This life is hard and we will all go through our crucibles at some point. But she just encouraged us, encouraged me as well. You must fight. I want to say Dr. McKnight, Auntie Nathalie, and Mr. Awesome Husband, Mark McKnight. Thank you. What's her name? He says. Thank you both so much for being here and for sharing this ongoing story of victory in spite of.
Yes.
Because although this story is not completed and it's an ongoing process, you have proven that victory is still possible in the midst of the situation that you are faced with.
Yes.
Thank you for watching, and we are the Foster Triplets. And we'll see you next time.